All right, everybody, welcome. I am very excited that you're here and super excited that Alexa Bigwarfe is here to chat with us today. Today is a 1-hour jam-packed masterclass for those of you guys who are interested in writing your own book. But you're not only interested in doing it, because certainly there's a lot of different ways we can go about doing this, but we need to have it done in a way that really positions you as a leader in your space. And so how you go about doing this is more important, I would say, than anything else in this process. And so as kind of a little intro here, I just kind of want to share with you an experience that I had about 15 years ago now with this process and why I know this is so important for you. So I first self-published a book in the parent coaching space. And it was 2006, 2007, and it was all about the systems and how to launch a parent coaching business. And it was great. It looked beautiful. It was fulfilled through Lulu Press. The systems we set up were perfect. My friend and colleague, Elizabeth McFadden, co-authored it with me. It was awesome, right? I was getting checks in the mail. Things were great. And I had successfully planted my flag in the ground as the creator of the parent coaching industry. Exactly what I wanted to do. And about 3 years later, a woman who was actually a business client of mine wrote a book on this same process, but she wasn't kind of in the busyness of running her company like I was. She was in the busyness of becoming famous. And so because of that, she did things differently, I would say, right. She got an ISBN number. She registered the copywriting of her book. She did all these things that I didn't do. I just threw a damn book out there. I was so excited to do it and getting people help and saying, hey, I'm the first one to do this. And I was making money. I never realized that there were all these other things that needed to be done on the business side because I was too busy working. Because of that, I had like 5 years of having to manage PR and press, of her being out there in social media, her being out there in news as the author of the first parent coaching business book. 4 years after I had written one. And so to this day, I still have clients coming in this other company I own saying, oh yeah, have you heard of her? And they drop her name.
You're like,
because she kind of does what you do. And it's like dumping hot coals on my head. I just want to punch her in the face, to be really honest. So with that being said, it's my fault though, because I did something, I threw it out there and I didn't own it 100%. So we have Alexa Bigwarfe here. Alexa has been a guest on my podcast. I love her. And Alexa actually has a methodology that teaches you how to extract your ideas, how to extract everything in your beautiful brain to write your book. But then she also makes sure you don't miss the most important components of publishing it, owning it, and selling it. So I don't want you guys to have to go through what I have gone through. And I know that you all somewhere have books within you and they're ready to be written. Let's make sure when you do it, it's done well, that you own your space, that you're the expert in that area, and nobody steals it from you. So with that being said, Alexa, I'm going to give you the spotlight here and take over. It's all yours.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you, April, so much for having me in front of your audience and talking about this. That intro was perfect because that's really one of the things that I am most passionate about in my business is making sure that people who are publishing books do it in a professional manner so that they don't have all of those issues, so that they look like a publisher published them, which in fact a publisher has guided them through, since that's what I do. But it's really, really frustrating, to your point, when you've spent all this time, energy, and money, and then just small things, small details that are huge details on the back end can cause a really big difference. So today what I'm going to talk to you about, and I see that April loaded the slides, thank you so much, is I'm going to talk to you how as entrepreneurs you can tackle this task of building your business with a book, and the way that you can get started with it quickly, and I say easily, nothing is truly easy. I would say it's a simple system, as in it's not complicated, but it does take time, energy, and effort, of course. My job is to try and make that as simple as possible for you, because the truth of the matter is a book can be a phenomenal resource to help you grow your business in ways you never even anticipated. So I'm going to stop just introing myself here and get into the actual slides where I'm pretty sure I cover all of those topics. And if I don't, we can cover it at the end. So let's see, I need to share.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions, you can place them in the chat, and then Alexa's going to come back at the end of this and answer your questions for you. Also, definitely download the slides we have there for you as well, and I'll be in the chat monitoring as you guys go through. And if you haven't introduced yourselves yet in the chat and what you do in your area of expertise, please make sure you do that. And you can even share your website URL so others can go back there after the presentation. I'll save the chat so you guys get the chat documents. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So this is what I call the QuickBook system for busy entrepreneurs. So it's basically my system for, first of all, let me caveat this with, if you have been thinking about writing a book for a long time and just haven't known where and how to jump in, where to start, what to do, and how to prioritize your time to get it done. That's basically what this system is, because I do work with a lot of female entrepreneurs who are writing and publishing books to grow their business or grow their platform. And one of the biggest frustrations is that it's like, how on earth am I going to have enough time to fit this in? I'm already hustling all day long. I'm already busy with my client work. I'm doing all this stuff. How do I add one more thing? So I want to try and show you how to add one more thing without it feeling like it's going to be super painful. So, first, I'm going to start with my cautionary tale. I did my first book in 2 weeks, and it was a nightmare. I did not use my own system. I set myself up for grand failure from the very beginning. There was a reason behind it. I had an opportunity, and I do want to say that sometimes the opportunity is worth having some problems around it, because I was on my way to a conference, an in-person conference. Remember when we got to do that, with 150 female entrepreneurs, and I wanted to use my book as a case study process. So I did what I needed to do to have print copies to be able to hand it out in person there and say, listen, this is just an uncorrected proof, but I want to show you what can be done. And for that reason, it was worth it. But then I had to go back and redo a lot of things. So what I want to say here is that you can do it in a quick matter. There are ways to do it that way, but a good system with timelines, deadlines, milestones, all those things is definitely a better option, especially if you're already having problems with time management and fitting everything in. But the exciting part of it was that since I did that book in October 2018, I've had over 5,000 emails added to my list just from the free download of that book. So, and $10,000 in known revenue, and who knows how much unknown revenue, $10,000 in known revenue, where I've had people email me and say, I read your book, I want to work with you. So this is super exciting for all of us entrepreneurs in what a book can do for you. Okay. This is my general speech to female entrepreneurs, like especially those of you, I work with a lot of newer entrepreneurs. So women who have been in their businesses. When it comes to book, I don't do business coaching, but that's April's thing. But when it comes to writing books, a lot of my clients are in the first or second, sometimes third year of their business. I've had multiple clients who literally launched their business with their book type thing as well. So a lot of us are in this hustle area. We're trying to grow our business. We're trying to get out there. We have this idea. This happens to me on a daily basis. I'm scrolling through Facebook, and lo and behold, this person that I've been following just published the book I've been thinking about writing, or launched the course I've been thinking about it. And then I'm like, oh, what? Why? As my son would say. So everyone's going nuts about it, and you're thinking, I just missed my opportunity. but you didn't miss your opportunity, and we're going to try and set you up so that you won't miss your opportunity if you have this idea. The cool thing about books, I want to frame this for you. If you see Michelle publishing her book and you're like, that's the book I want to write, think about any subject matter that you buy books in. For me, it's health, the health industry, right? Regardless of what it is in that topic. Over my journey, I have autoimmune diseases, so I probably have 50 books on autoimmune protocol and Hashimoto's and how to eat well on this and how to lose weight when you have thyroid issues and blah, 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 blah. People that are into your topic don't generally just buy one book. As business owners, if y'all could see my bookshelf over here on how many books I have written by entrepreneurs on growing my business, managing my social media, getting new leads, writing, doing my funnel, managing my, I mean, there are books galore. So the key thing is that there's always an opportunity to still fit into the niche and still have an audience, even if someone else just published a similar book. So a book in general, if you're here today and you just kind of were interested in the topic, but aren't in that place of, yes, I know I want to do it, I want to tell you why it's a good reason for you to do it. It can be one of the biggest multipliers of growth by expense. What I mean by that is that if you do a well-produced published book, depending on how much you do on your own and how much you hire other people to do for you, you can spend between, I'd say, $3,000 and $10,000. But the multiplier of that for that expense as a marketing tool can be exponentially multiplied times that. So I think it's on the next slide, but I'm working with a client now. His name is Kevin, and he told me that he can directly attribute $300,000 of consulting business to his book. So that's not everybody's story. I don't want anyone thinking that they're going to come out the gate day one of their business and launch a book, or day one of launching their book and immediately have $300,000 in consulting business. But I'm just saying, I wanted, you know how it is. We want to set the stage for what's possible, and that is possible. I've worked with plenty of people who have launched their speaking careers because of their books. Just there's a lot of stuff that can happen. I want to talk about what types of businesses are best suited to scale with the book, because there are differences out there. And then most importantly, how much time, energy, and investment does it take to write and publish a book? And what are the next steps that you can take to make this happen? Okay, so we just talked about this. Book can be for especially young, and I don't mean by age here, I mean by length of time in your business. For younger business owners, this is your calling card. This is what sets you apart from the rest of the people in your industry. This is what shows that you are an expert in there. And I'm not sure if I talk about this later or not, so I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about it now. I have talked to, I run a big conference every year, and I always bring in people to help us talk about getting speaking gigs as an author. And one of the women shared with me that often when she's looking for speakers for the conferences, because she's a conference like manager, she goes out and pitches people, different conferences. And she said that she'll often, if they're looking for a speaker on a particular topic, she'll go through Amazon and see who's published a book, or go to Barnes and Noble or whatever, and start with that. I've also been told numerous times that if there are two people who look exactly the same on paper that are applying for a speaking engagement or something along that lines, sometimes the defining factor between the two of them will be whether or not one has published a book or another. Now, granted, in these days and ages, a lot more people are publishing books, but it is still a weeder. It is still something that will weed you out from there. So this slide feels a little late in the discussion. I don't know. This is where my business coach told me it should go, so I believe her. But now that I've been talking to you for 10 minutes, hey, y'all, I'm Alexa. I am a mom, an entrepreneur, an author, all those things, author, coach, publisher, social justice warrior, and this is like never in a million years where I imagined I would wind up. My background is in intelligence and counterterrorism. And that's what I was happily doing until I realized that it was really difficult to balance a busy job like that and two small children. So I stepped away to become a stay-at-home mom because that was going to be easier. Haha. And we got pregnant with our third child, and I'm going to summarize a very long story to tell you that it wound up being identical twins. They were diagnosed with a syndrome that is very, very dangerous for identical twins, and they were born 10 weeks early, 9.5 weeks early, and one of our daughters passed away after 2 days. And I turned to writing as a source for healing. I started blogging and eventually worked through the process. I wanted to do more, so I worked through the process of writing a book and collaborating with a bunch of other grieving parents to write our first book, Sunshine After the Storm, a survival guide for the grieving mother. Now, interestingly, I had always wanted to be a writer. I was a professional writer. I wrote briefings and intelligence reports and all kinds of technical writing through my jobs, but I had never experimented with being an author. And I really found that I fell in love with the puzzle pieces of publishing the book, finding all the different elements and bringing it together. So the long and the short of it, that's how I went from writing counterterrorism plans for the state of South Carolina to publishing other people's books. And it's been a crazy wild journey since then. And I should have also told you that my surviving daughter is healthy and happy, and she's almost 9 years old, and she's amazing. So we were very, very blessed with that. Okay, so the questions that I hear the most from people when they are considering writing a book: how much time is it going to take me? How much money is it going to take me? Will I ever get my investment back if I decide to do this? How much resources is it going to be? And if they're not willing to take the next step because those are the fears that are holding them back, the book stays on the one-day list. And I don't know about you, but every time I see somebody else publish the book that I was meant to write, I feel like a part of my soul is dying. So for me, it is very worth it to make it happen, just so that I can, even if nobody ever buys the book, I am going to finish writing my World War II historical fiction, which has nothing to do with this, but that's just on my list of books. And it eats away when you see opportunities that come and go and come and go and come and go, and you don't jump on board. Okay, so I talked about about the book can be a big multiplier of growth by expense. And I talked about Kevin, but also Angela, one of my more recent clients, Angela Hoskins. She has seen a ton of speaking engagements come about. She wrote a book called Woman on Top. I forget the subtitle, but it's How to Be a Lady Boss, basically, because she is in the corporate world and she sees tons of leadership stuff that seems applicable to men as you're growing in the corporate world, but not a whole lot of stuff that's specific to women. And her point is that women make decisions differently. Women hire people differently. Women fire people differently. Women work with their teams differently. So she wrote a whole book about it. And since then, she's been invited to speak at businesses. A really exciting thing happened. Wells Fargo, which has thousands of women inside the industry, has a book club specific to women. And recently her book was selected for that book club. So now she's got all these corporate women reading her book. She's been on podcasts for, it's been super exciting. And then my friend Shelley Longenecker, which I don't know if you heard the podcast interview that I did with April, but we talked about her. She took her book and found other organizations and businesses that had audiences that would be interested in the topic of her book and pitched a plan on how she could show up in front of their audiences and run a mini training based on the concepts in her book, do book clubs, do all kinds of things. And she has wound up making some really big partnerships that are now, because she's created this program, she can plug into any of these organizations and go in and do this training. And it's just been fantastic for her. She makes the money from that affiliate relationship, the joint venture, but her book sales are also rising because of it. So that's exciting. Okay. So, if you are an entrepreneur, I'm going to venture that you have something that is worthy of writing a book about. So the businesses that what I see as the best for scaling books is anybody who can teach somebody something that fills a need that they have. If you have systems, processes, skills, if you have an inspirational journey or overcame something, if you offer some kind of consulting or coaching, this is a huge one. Let's say you have a $5,000 a month coaching program. There are so many people that you will never have in your audience because they will never be able to afford the $5,000 coaching point. But what if you take some of your best tips tips and tools, and maybe not the secrets, obviously you're not going to share the how, but if you were able to pull it together in a way that you can offer them some of your coaching, but think about all the stuff that you provide for free that's of value on your website right now. You can put that into a book and you can sell it for $20. And it's obviously not the same as a one-to-one coaching arrangement, but all those people who said no to 2,000, 5,000, whatever it is a month, or couldn't join your program or whatever, now have an opportunity that, if seems a lot more reasonable. Yeah, I'll buy your $20 book. And I bet you at some point in time, if they really like what they're reading, especially if you throw in maybe some extra YouTube videos that they can access to see you doing some stuff, the kind of stuff that you would do in a free webinar to build interest, to give enough information that they feel like they're learning, but they still need you to help them through. Those types of things help convert people over. Same with the expensive program or offering. And then there's people that just want to share and inspire people through their journey. And there are many, many business entrepreneurs and people in the business who are writing more, usually later on, because you really need to have an audience for this type of book to work, I believe. But once you get to a point where you do have a large audience, that book of, I can understand where you are at the beginning, because I had all of this stuff going on, and this is what happened. So how-tos, inspirational, step-by-step, interview type books, anything, collaboration books where you're bringing a lot of people's information together. These are all fantastic resources. Okay. So let's get to it. Let's talk about how we're going to do this. Okay, so here are the steps. Now, I'm calling this the quick book system because I want you to walk away from this understanding how you make your first steps to make this happen, and do it in a manner that's not completely overwhelming. So first, and we're going to go through all of these in great detail. First, decide what you want to write about. What problem are you going to solve? Second, you got to plan the book and data mine. Now, my friend Julie told me that nobody is going to understand what data mining means because they don't come from the world of data mining, where you're pulling information out that you need. So that basically just means, what do you already have in existence that supports this topic, that supports the problem? Did you already write blog posts on the topic? Do you have lead magnets that have it? Do you have oodles and oodles of Facebook posts and Instagram posts that have this information spread out there? Have you been on podcasts? Where is the stuff you've already created on this? And that's important, and then very important piece of it. And then how do you organize, refine, outsource, make it book worthy? Okay, first, very, very, very quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I have a ton of resources if you are for free, our blog posts, etc., on my website, on my YouTube channel, which is also Write, Publish, Sell. If you are just looking for the information of, I want to write a book, how do I start? April mentioned the ISBN number and the important things, the Library of Congress control number, all of those things that you need. I have tons of stuff on that available to people to help you through the process. But I did want to just quickly note that it is very important for you to make sure that you have all those things in place and are done properly. There are 3 types of publishing, so that you know and understand this when you go in there. There's self-publishing, which back in the day, we are in a new day, a totally new day now, but back in the day, self-publishing used to have a pretty ugly red X on it, and that's because there were so many people that were just throwing their books out there. FYI, there are still a lot of people that are still throwing their books out there, but what we aim to do is to make sure that the books that are coming out there that are indie published are, look, you can't really tell a difference between one that a major publishing house put out and a self-published author. And there are so many great people now who are cover designers and interior layout and really spent a lot of time learning how to do this well and can help you through through the process to make sure it's all done. Then there's traditional. The traditional is you write a proposal as a nonfiction writer. If you're here because you want to write fiction, it's a different process. You write your book, find an agent, submit. But for the nonfiction route, you would write a proposal, a very specific proposal that outlines a whole bunch of key information, and then you would either pitch to an agent to pitch you, or you would go directly to some of the publishers that you can go directly to. It's a long process. There's lots of benefits, pros and cons to both routes. And then there's hybrid, which is within the last 5 years has come about, and hybrid publishers follow the traditional method of doing things. You have to submit a book to them. They have some type of editorial review process. They don't just publish everybody, generally. They operate like a traditional publisher, with the exception that there is a partnership plan here where the author assumes some of the cost of production in exchange for much higher royalties. Sorry, excuse me, my brain went off for a second there. So the upside of this route is that it's usually much faster. You have a lot more say in the process, and you are truly a partner in it. And you earn your money back faster because you're getting 60% royalties as opposed to probably about 10% royalties. And you have somebody else do all the hard work for you. So all three of these have very, very wonderful opportunities for everybody, and it really depends on what you're trying to get out of your process. Entrepreneurs, I believe, benefit the most from either self-publishing but with a partner, or doing a hybrid opportunity. Now, self-publishing does not mean, I like to actually refer to it as indie publishing, because self-publishing makes it seem to me like you have to do everything all by yourself. Self-publishing really just means that it's published through your account and you get all the royalties and you make all the decisions. But if you use a publishing partner, then they can help you make sure you get everything done and you're on track and doing all of that stuff. So like I said, I was going to keep this a quick one, but I did want to just make sure that we covered the basics of publishing and what you should know. And really the biggest thing that I can leave with you that I think April's story at the beginning really highlighted was there is so much stuff that you don't even know you need to know when you go into a book. I am over 100 books into it, and I kid you not, I am still learning new things every single day. It's a big industry, and there's a lot of things happening, and it changes, and oh my goodness, it's changing so much right now with all the evolutions and everything happening. So yeah, okay. So publishing partner can alleviate you having to know all of that. These are the first 2 books in my series, and I highlight them. The Ditch the Fear and Just Write It is the one that I did in 2 weeks. And I highlight it because it uses the system that I'm about to show you all how to do. And then Ditch the Fear and Just Market It is the second book in the series. And it also followed this same system. I did give myself a tidge bit more than 2 weeks this time around, though. Okay, so let's go through the steps. The what. What is the question you get asked more than anything in the world? If you're brand new to your business, which I should have asked that question at the beginning, at where you all fall in your levels of business. But if you haven't been on the block long enough to be getting a lot of questions, then what is the one thing that you do for people that you can teach? So if you build funnels for people, what can you teach people about funnels? If you are a social media manager, what are the things that people need to know about being successful on social media? What pain point can you solve for people? So in this way, writing a book that's going to build your business is no different than coming up with a product to sell, another product to sell to your audience, right? And then the third question is, if you're farther along in your business, are you building a pipeline? So could this book potentially, and this is the example case study that I'm going to show through here, could your book be the entry point to a much larger pipeline? So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the subscription box, Sparkle, Hustle, Grow. I happened to meet Julie live and in person at a conference a few years ago when she was I think she had 100 subscribers to her box at the time. And now she's got over 1,000. She's really made a lot of growth in here. But it's a great product. Each month you get like a Christmas gift with your office supplies and training tools and books and fun stuff like that. Anyway, the point is, as her business has evolved, she started as a subscription box owner, but then what happens? People start asking you, this is how I grew my business. I started working to build other people's books, but then people started asking me all the time, how do you do this? How do you publish a book? How do I do this? And you kind of pivot into teaching people how to do this, right? So that's what she has happened too. She is now teaching people how to build their books. But first, she started with a book that was really not even related to the subscription box, but it was an opportunity to get in front of her target audience, which is female entrepreneurs. So she created, her first book was The Happy Hustle, which was a lot of insight from other people on how they're doing this as an entrepreneur building a business. And it was a great way to just get herself in front of this audience that she could then market her subscription box to. And then her second book answers the next question in her business. How do I start a subscription box company? So Julie has a program that teaches people, but what she found was, excuse me, I need a drink really quickly. What she found was that people were starting her subscription box boot camp or not signing up for her boot camp, either one, because they weren't really even sure yet if this was the right thing to do for them. So they did not want to invest in a 6-month program when they weren't even sure, is my idea even going to work? So this is what I mean by a first part to a pipeline. So the first part of it is, how do people know that they have an idea that can work? And what can I give them to weed out the people who are going to learn this information and think, nope, that's not for me? So that's what she's done with her book that we are actually I think I have a slide on it later. We're writing and getting ready to finalize right now is the subscription box basics so that people can learn and know all the major things that they need to know to start a subscription box. She's not holding back. She tells them everything in this book, from how she gets her, for everything, from starting it all the way through launching it, how she does a pre-launch, all the things. But for the person who is like, okay, I'm convinced I want to do this, I need more details on the how. I need you to help me. I need you to help me set up my website. I need you to help me do this or that. Then they are primed and ready for her course, which is just perfect. Okay, so for you to determine this, the best thing you can do is to write down all the questions that you get asked the most. And the second part of that is then to do the research of what are you already writing about and talking about. What message do you want to share? Or if none of those resonate, what funnel are you looking to build? With Ditch the Fear and Just Write It, I was looking to build a funnel of female entrepreneurs that knew they wanted to write a book, but we're struggling with how to get started. We're struggling. That book is more about mindset than writing a book. It's got obviously all the tools and action steps to get started and all this kind of stuff, but it's largely about negating the things that are stopping you from moving forward, because I heard it so much. I want to write a book, but I don't have time. I want to write a book, but I don't know if I can invest the money. I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start. So you see, those are the things that I was getting over and over and over. So I wrote the book to answer those questions, and you can do the same. Step 2, the what. Okay, so now you pick your big idea. So I knew, okay, so Julie knows people are interested in starting a subscription box. What do I need to include in that? That's where the outline comes into play. And outlining is such an unsexy idea. I get it. Every time I say the word outline, I remember thesis statements and 1s and 2s and A, B's and C's and just like essays and my thesis that I wrote before I finished school. Like, I don't know how to, I wish I had just a plan. It's just your plan. Let's just talk it like a simple little plan. It's your ideas in some sort of an organized manner that says, this is what I plan to include in my book. But the cool thing about it is that once you take the time to think about what that book needs to include and you've written it down, I'm telling you what, the rest of it flows so much more easily. So I'm going to show you the plan behind Julie's book. So all along, she's been doing a podcast. You may or may not have a podcast. Please try to think of this in big picture view here. If it's not a podcast, what else are you doing? Do you have blog posts? Do you post a lot on social media? Do you have great lead magnets? What are the things that you have? But for her, it was super easy to put this book together because she already had a podcast with these topics. So she went through her podcast and she already had transcripts. Holy moly, half the book's already written. Okay. So she went through and she thought about, what would I want to include in this book? Well, obviously, why do you even want to do a subscription box? Then how does it work? Going through what do you need to know about wholesaling? What do you need to know about your niche and competitive research? Where do you get your pieces? So as you can see, like this could flow for any type of business topic. You help people start their businesses. Okay, why do you want to start a business? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? What all does it entail? Do you need to, how do you get all those things? So you help people with social media. So, how do you start? Why should you be on social media? How do you grow a social media platform? How do you figure out, should I be on Facebook or Instagram? All these things, you can easily go through it. And guess what? If you've been creating content to support this journey through the process, you're miles ahead. If you haven't, it's okay. You can still create content in a relatively quick manner once you have this idea of what is the flow from A to Z on what I want my potential clients to have a good understanding of it. For me, start with, why write a book? What's it going to do for you? Where do you start? What tools do you need to write a book? What happens when you get writer's block? How do I create my outline? All these things that go through the process step by step by step. And guess what? The good news is we are oversaturated in knowledge these days. So short is good. People like short books that are to the point and tell them what they want. So you do not need to write a 900,000 word, exposition on everything that you do in your business. A 20 to 30,000 word book, which you'll be amazed how quickly can be written, is adequate. Okay. So I've kind of been mentioning this along the way, but where do you pull the content that's already created and what can you repurpose? The blog posts, the lead magnets, the interviews. Go to podcast interviews that you did for somebody else. I'll bet when you went on someone else's podcast, you laid down such incredible nuggets of wisdom that you may not have ever put in your own content. So grab that information. Guest posts, case studies, social media content, lead magnets, all those places that you've been. But guess what? You can also invite other people. In both of my books and in Julie's book, this is kind of the system that we're following. We quickly put together a form and sent it out to other people who were kicking butt in the same industry and said, hey, I have these 5 questions I'd really like you to answer. And we included case studies. I included 18 of them or so in both of my books. She's got 18 to 20 in her book. It reinforces what you're trying to teach. It shows case studies of how other people are successfully doing what you want them to do. And it adds page counts and information to your book. So if you're worried that at this point you don't have enough content to write or the time to write it, using other people's information, inviting other people to join you can be a fabulous way to add both value and length to your book. Oh, here's a perfect example. These are just mock-ups, but this is how she featured other business subscription box owners throughout her book. You know what else it does? It creates a lot of love in your industry and amongst your clients and amongst the people that you are colleagues with when you are also highlighting and sharing them. And when you do this with the openness of, you know what? Maybe not everybody who reads this book is going to want to subscribe to my subscription box or get in my program. But if I can help my existing clients who have gone through my program and now everybody's getting the Peaceful Play box and the Renew box and the Girls Shave subscription box and all these things. I mean, it's just, I am a true believer in the rising tide and what we do for each other as female entrepreneurs to help each other out, like April having me here in front of her audience. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. We're getting close to the end. Nobody panic. We're going to make it. At this point in time, you have to make a big decision. If you are like me, next month, I am like already starting to curl up into a tiny ball and wish that I had better boundaries as I look into October, because we have 3 book launches. We have a program launch. It's October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So I'm doing a bunch of stuff with my nonprofit and my Grieving Mom Month. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? So what do? I increased my team for October because that's the only way we can make it through. And I'm not willing to give up on any of those products. If you're not at a point where you feel like you can hire big, expensive help, there are lots of very, very, very crafty and very talented copywriters who can help you collaboratively write, and at a fraction of the cost of hiring someone to do it by yourself. If you can also hire a ghostwriter. On this style of book, I really strongly do not encourage you to do that. Ghostwriting is going to cost between $10,000 and $50,000 to do a book. To me, you can find a good copywriter. If you already have someone on your team who writes your email newsletters or your blog posts and already knows your voice, this is a perfect assignment for them, because they already get you. They sound like you. They're doing for you. And it doesn't have to take them a long time to figure out how to write like this. And let me tell you, if you have the organized outline, this is how we did Julie's book. My copywriter and I got together. We got her outline. She was so kind enough to actually hyperlink to all of the podcast episodes that went with her outline. My copywriter and I went over, we pulled the transcripts, we went through them. Both of us took passes at it. She took the first pass, then I took the second pass, then we hired another editor to come in on the third pass. And it didn't take us incredibly long. So there are lots of ways to do that. And if you need resources in those areas, I'm certainly happy to help you there. So again, this is just reiterating how this can be an easier process. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's ever like super easy. This is time consuming. I mean, even though the transcripts are already there, a podcast transcript does not read like a book does. We had to go in and we had to pull stories and we had to add other things and we had to make it feel like a book. But I'm telling you what, we wrote the whole book in a month. And it's a good book. It's nice. It's great. And you can do the same thing with an organized system. I promise you. And if you can't, then pull in a copywriter and you do this work. You're the only one who can decide what needs to be in your book. Maybe somebody can help you with that. I can help you with that if that's what you really need help with. That's one of my favorite things to do. But once you've decided this is what I'm doing, then you hire a $10, $15 hour a VA to go out and to data mine your site, to data mine every place you've ever been, and to pull in the relevant stuff, and off you go. Kind of just talked about outsourcing there. So outsourcing is a great tool. Okay, so 2020 is rapidly coming to a close. Thank God. It will be let's hope that 2021 looks differently, right? Who would have thought? At the beginning of the year, I came into this so excited about 2020. Oh, life is fun. But there is still enough time to do this before the end of 2020. However, if you are overcommitted and can't do it, I do not want to add more stress or craziness to your life. So just change that number to 2021 and put it on your plan to start working through starting in January. But it can be simple. To 1, spend the time to determine your idea, and I've got some resources at the end that will help you. 2, outline your book. 3, gather the materials. And 4, write, revise, have someone else write. And then the following steps for that is that you really must hire somebody who proofreads or edits for a living. Trust me from experience, one of the most embarrassing things about putting out a book faster than you should is this rapid fire. I ran my books through editors and proofreaders, but when you say, I have to have this done by tomorrow, they're not going to be able to bring their A game. Thankfully, I have people in my crew who could do turnarounds like that, but was it worth it? No, because I had to go back and post edit the book. That's not fun. So make sure you build in enough time to have somebody, because there is nothing that destroys your credibility more. And I know because I'm living through this of what happens. First, let me say all books have mistakes in them, even professionally edited books put out there. So it's not the end of the world if there's one or two misspelled words in your book. It happens even if your book has gone through rounds and rounds of editing. But you want to try to alleviate that, because people get hung up on the fact that your layout does not look like it should look. And if it's just a bunch of blobby paragraphs inside a book and that you threw up on Amazon, that's not good for your credibility if you've got a lot of mistakes or inconsistent information. So you want to be professional when you put it out the door. And if you don't know or don't have the time to learn all of those things, then hire someone to do that for you. Because there are tons of people. Of course, this is what my company does, but I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of agencies who do this very well. And then you want to launch the book and try and do it in a manner that it's actually going to get you as much growth as possible immediately out the door. Because I'm sure you know this from launching products and building your business in general, that there is no time like when everybody's eyes are on you because you're making so much noise around a topic. Launching a book is no different. And if you can do all those things to get it in front of everybody, then that is super helpful. However, there are times where you're like, I just want to get this book out to my community. I have a community of people. I know they're going to want it. I don't need to spend thousands of hours in time on marketing. That works too. Okay. Oh, that can't be the last slide. Okay. I don't know what happened. It just got stuck. New York Times bestseller is often something that people come to me and say, I really want this to be, I want to be a New York Times bestseller. And I'm like, you told me that you want to launch your book in 3 weeks and you just finished writing it. So I'm sorry to break your heart, but that's not going to happen. However, if you want to work on that for your next book, let's get going and I can show you how you can do it. But I don't know that entrepreneurs need that. Fiction authors, the people like Brene Brown that are totally, like those, like they need that kind of credibility. But for us at this point in time, our goal is to grow our businesses. And I encourage you to keep your eyes on the right target at the beginning. Do we all want to be New York Times bestsellers eventually? Heck yeah, I hope we all eventually write a book that lands us on Oprah's couch, talking about what's going on and how this is the solution that's going to help everybody in the world. But that shouldn't necessarily be your first goal. Grow your email list, add new clients. The rest will come from that. And that is what I can guarantee that part of it. Okay, so I promised resources. I told you before about our blog. So excuse me, we are shifting from writepublishsell.co to writepublishsell.com. The blog hasn't moved yet. So writepublishsell.co/blog is where all of our free resources, tutorials, all of that kind of stuff out there. This link is the one you really want though, writepublishsell.com/quick start. It gives you the download of this book. It gives you the slides, which you have. April provided that to you. It gives you some other resources, some other tools to help you get started. And if you are after this, like, heck yeah, I'm ready to start. Let me get my outline in place. I do have a funnel, of course, but it's a tiny offer, but it's a big pack full of stuff. It's the writepublishsell.com/jumpstart. And that is my 1 hour outlining program. But if you're not there yet, I didn't come here to sell you that. I just wanted to give that to you as a resource for the people who are ready to go there. Start with the free stuff. Start at writepublishsell.com, quick start. Get your resources, get the things that you need to know to get started. And again, to look through it and think, is this something that I'm ready to commit to now? It's okay if you're not. It's okay if you're like, this is a great idea, but I don't know that I'm there yet, or I have other higher priorities, or right now I am trying to make sure that I can survive this time where I'm e-learning 7 children on Mondays and Tuesdays, and this is just not the right time for me to add that in. That's cool. That resource is going to stay there for when you need it. And hopefully by 2021, our children will be back in school again. Life will be returning a little bit back to normal, and you can pull up that website and you can start digging in on the content. But that is what I have for my official presentation. I have time for questions, I think. How did I, oh gosh, geez, y'all, I talk a lot. Got 10 minutes left. Let me undo this.
That was amazing. So much information. And I know just being in the chat and kind of managing the chat here, and I love this crowd of business owners because everybody's so talkative and supportive to each other too. So you guys are awesome here on this masterclass. First of all, I did put the links for you all in here, and then we'll also email those to you later, as well as the slides are in here for you, and that's a file you can download in the very beginning. So we have some questions here coming in. Tanya asked, actually, Tanya, do you want to can you pop on? Are you on video, Tanya? Oh, it looks like she came off. Oh no, there she is. Okay,
yeah.
Here you go. Okay, wait, let me
thank you so much. This has definitely been something I've been thinking about for years, just different types of work. I know a lot of times my question was mainly, do you ever do, I guess like voice memos, notes and different things like that? Because
Yes.
I most of my information comes when I drive a lot. I have four kids and I'm running around so I'm in the car a lot. So a lot of times, my mind's going then. So by the time I get home, I sit down and it's just like my brain is frozen. And so I was just wondering, in your writing and in your experience, do you think that would be something to kind of just keep having, or,
100%. Yes. I do the same thing back in the day where I was driving around. I don't go very many places right now, but yes, I will tell you, there is a free app, not free anymore, I don't think, but it's still significantly lower price than some of the other transcriptions. It's called Temi, T as in Tango, E as in Echo, M as in Michael, I as in Indigo. And it's an app you can download. You can record away. I used Temi to transcribe. I'm currently ghostwriting a memoir for a woman, and we met on Zoom and did all of our recordings through there. I uploaded all the recordings, had everything transcribed, and you can take out the timestamps and the voice, and you can download the Word document. Wow. And they are getting these voice transcribers are getting better and better and better and better. And you still have to go through, like, you say things in speech that you would never say in there. There's some weird transcriptions, but it's so much easier to start from a transcription of thousands of words. I did about 40,000 words just through voice transcription.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yes, I'm so glad you said that, because that is actually a very important tip that I generally give to our writers, because I process when I'm cleaning, when I'm driving, when I'm doing anything like that where my brain has a moment. I got to figure out how to put a recorder in my shower, because I process a lot of things in the shower. But I will make myself voice messages all the time. I also like to use Evernote, which is another free app that you can type on the go. So I'll do sometimes when I'm walking, which is probably not a good idea, but the voice messaging you can do. You can also Vox yourself messages. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. So totally do that. Yes, I was in the military. I just saw that message pop in. That has nothing to do with what you just asked, but yes. So yes, use everything you can to help you. And I do that for blog posts too. Like if I'm writing, I'm like, oh man, I really need to write a blog post on this topic. I voice message it to myself generally.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions that you'd like to ask Alexa here? Jenny says she does. Yeah. Voice to text.
Voice to text and Evernote.
Yeah. I use the app on the voice recorder app on my iPhone. And then I actually, just so you guys know, I can upload and I can share that memo, and I share it directly to a Dropbox file. So when I'm planning podcast content and I'm kind of planning things out, I can share it exactly to a Dropbox file that I've created kind of on that topic. So anytime I need to dump into that topic, otherwise, I would say that for me personally, if I just do a bunch of memos and they're all together, I am never going back listening to those.
Yeah.
Even if sometimes I'm like, I don't know what to do with this topic. I'm going to drop it in. It's like a miscellaneous Dropbox file, but then it's still a file that I know is miscellaneous. Everything else is at least categorized. Otherwise, it's not a good use. I don't ever come back and process it.
You know, I will say that's the advantage of Temi. And by the way, you can use the actual recording part of it for free and load it up there. And it goes onto an actual online system where my team can go in and you can title it whatever you want. So I'll often be driving down the road and I'll talk about, you know, what I want to write about launching your book. And I can upload it to there, and then I can send it to my assistant and I can say, here's the upload, watch this, listen to it, pull what you need and write a blog post. So there's that too, or pull what you need and put it in my book.
Right.
Love that.
Absolutely perfect. And then the other resource I'll tell you guys that we started using, I'll put a link here for you, is one that takes all of our videos. So anytime you have any videos, it actually can connect automatically and automatically upload and transcribe every video you put on Facebook, everything you put out on YouTube. And so all of your videos, it uploads it there for you, completely transcribes it. And then you actually, separate from the book, but for business owners, for those of you guys that want to become experts and known in a certain space, what you can do is you can put the app, or not the app, excuse me, it's like a widget that you put on your website. So anybody can type in, like Leslie, like how to set up a homeschool space. They could put in those words. And if you've done a video on that, it'll actually bring them exactly to the place in that video where you answered that question. And it's amazing. And so I just have to find the link for you guys. Anybody
Leslie,
else have any?
in my life. I need Leslie in my life.
Everybody needs Leslie in her life.
Oh my gosh. I tell you what, though, this is one of the things I shared with my community like a month or two ago. And I want to tell you, it is not too late to jump on this bandwagon, Leslie, especially if you have a lot of content already created. I cannot even tell you how many times I hear the question or the comment or the plea of help with educating children at home. So if you could quickly pump out an ebook on how to survive this e-learning environment, do it.
She's an expert at that. She's not only an interior designer. I'm going to brag on her because she's one of my private clients. So I'm going to brag on her. She's not only an amazing interior designer in New York, but she specializes in creating spaces that function for kids, and she's a homeschooler. So
so much incredible knowledge there.
She's everybody's favorite person right now. So
yes, that's awesome.
Leslie, put your link in here if you didn't already. She's amazing. Let me get this link for you guys here. This is our referral link over to it. It's called.
That sounds like a really cool tool. I'm going to check that out.
It's amazing. There you go.
With all of our stuff that we do for the conference, that sounds like it would be. Okay, I'm clicking on your referral.
We used to pay $1 a minute or whatever for rev.com, but
yes,
it was a waste of money and it wasn't very accurate. And this is absolutely amazing. So it does all of our podcasts, and then it takes all of our videos as well. Totally unlimited, transcribes everything. And then we have the widget, which I will say from a marketing standpoint, the widget should probably be marketed more. How many of you guys knew that you could plug in any question about business on my website and get the immediate answer? Probably none of you. So there's certainly some opportunities on where to put that. But the widget comes with your account when you set up your account there.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. It's like a custom widget. You can put your logo on it and stuff. Any other questions for Alexa here today? No.
Well, I hope I didn't just overwhelm you all. That was a lot of information to be dumped in one little time. But I did this presentation before in a different group, so a similar presentation. But when you go to the Quick Start page, there's an actual replay. Well, and you're sending out the replay too, right? So I'm not going to send you guys to the replay. Can I get a copy of this or you're putting
Absolutely.
it on YouTube, right? I'll embed the YouTube video to April's because this was a better presentation.
You killed it. You killed it. We learned so much. So if you all are in this place where you are thinking about writing a book, what I would recommend is that you look at the next 120 days. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to think in in 90-day sprints, especially when we're getting towards the end of in such a crazy year. So I would look at your next 120 days, number one. Number two, I would look at what you're selling next year. What is the primary thing that you're selling, the primary thing you're offering, the primary, your, what I call signature offer or program or service or whatever it is. And then I would take a look, if that's your number one revenue generator, taking a look and, what does that then go down as far as in a funnel to extract that could be your first book that you could write. So just kind of reverse engineering it based on the clarity of what you already have in what you're selling or what you want to be known for. You don't even have to be selling something. If you want to grow a community around a certain topic, great. Okay. And then commit to yourself. I've actually written 2 books, and commit to yourself when you're going to start it. If you have, and we all have different lives, but I did a training on how to plan your entire year. It was an old podcast training. I'll try to find the links for you guys, but it talks about how to lay out the months of the year. So when we're looking at 2021, if you're like me, in order to be successful at that, I had to block out my writing time. And so I usually write in June and July when I'm traveling with my kids and I don't have as many clients in December. December is an amazing time, just the way it works for me to write, because I don't have a lot of business things going on. Those are my off times, if you will, or like my off season times for business. So I would take a look in the next 120 days to commit, but then I would take a look at the next 12 months and decide you might commit to this, but then when is going to be your actual work time on it? Because if you guys have this idea, nobody is you. Nobody, I don't care if you sell the same thing as 100,000 other people. Nobody is you. Nobody approaches it the way you approach it, thinks about it the way you think about it, and has the stories you have as to why you lay things out the way you do. Nobody is Jamie, she's a nutritionist, but nobody has her story about being kosher and gluten-free with kids with celiacs. Nobody is Leslie, who's homeschooled, but works with really high-end professional people in New York. And sometimes that, like, you would think those two things wouldn't go together, but it's perfect for her. Nobody is Tanya, who has her experience in her systems to teach people how to successfully breastfeed. They all come from foundational understandings about your area of expertise, but the way you guys approach them is going to be totally different than anybody else. So don't just don't worry if you're like, well, what do I have to share about this? Because you all have something incredibly unique to share about this that nobody else does. So definitely reach out to Leslie, as I'm staring at Leslie's message here, definitely reach out to Alexa. She's our go-to person for self-publishing. We love her. Super excited to be able to speak at, what's the event that I'm
So it's the Women in Publishing Summit, and it comes up every year in March. And it's basically, it is like the full gamut of stuff that women who are writing books need to know. Everything from that, like essentials of how to find an editor, all the way through April's coming to teach us about building like business tactics around all of these things. So we cover all the things.
Yeah. So, and I'll also make sure you guys have the link to the Women in Publishing Summit. It'll be a virtual summit next year, beginning of March. So you can plan on that. So commit to yourselves what you're going to do. And that would be a perfect thing for you to attend to really knock it out of the park. All right. We've gone 5 minutes over. Thank you guys so much for being here and for your time. We love connecting with you and meeting with you. And can't wait to see what everybody writes. Thank you,
Thanks,
Alexa.
everyone. Appreciate it.
You.
Have a good day.
Take care, you guys.